Ghetto Socks. You are watching Potato Salad Radio from CKDU 88.1 FM on No Dial.
Recently, you have started a new class there. Every class you've ever taught there, I believe, is your brainchild.
No. Ooh. No, not really.
Cut his mic.
My first one I took over from the wonderful and delightful Robert McGray.
Shout out.
I took the class from him years ago and loved it. And then once he was on his way out the door, that's when I kind of stepped in.
Okay, what was that one?
That was the music and culture, just talking about how music influences and reflects culture and how it kind of is involved in a lot of cultural debates and things.
But since then, you've created some classes.
Yes. Well, there was the history of rock and roll, which I can't take credit for inventing rock and roll. But, I talk about that a bit. But then this other one was Randy Warren and I. She's the head of the Cultural Studies Department. She kind of came up with this idea for a class that looked at hip-hop and religion, and being the kind of people she and I are, resistance worked its way in there. So she kind of gave me this title and said, what can we do with that? And
so the title is?
Rap, Resistance, and Religion. So looking at kind of the confluence of all three of those things and how that plays out.
So for some people listening, they would think, I don't know. It's a tough one for me. It's hard for me to get out of my own head about this because there's things that I guess I know. But I think a lot of people would look at rap and be like, that's a very secular thing. It's a very capitalist.
Well,
it's music.
So is life.
Music is dancing around. Life is fundamentally secular.
Well, it is, except that there are millions of people who pull in a belief system. Religion is a part of people's lives. So much like rap, it's just kind of part of the fabric of it.
Let me ask you a different question then. If you put any other musical genre in the place of rap in the title of this course, how is this course different from those? What is it about rap in its relationship to both resistance as a concept and religion as a concept/thing? How is rap's relationship different then? Because there's going to be religious influences on anything that someone who's religious does.
Sure.
Or you could draw that line if you want to reinforce your point.
I think it comes down to relevance. All
right.
If we talked about religious and resistance expressions in jazz, certainly you could talk about things, but you'd be talking about history. There's not a huge social movement with jazz as the soundtrack right now. Shouts to Kamasi Washington, Thundercat, the Brainfeeder dudes, but it's more relevant. Rap is mainstream now. It's something that grew from a particular thing that was very much in opposition to the mainstream into this singular expression where a lot of things use rap and dip into rap in the mainstream now.
In some respects, then, is this course sort of could be almost called like pop culture? Religion and resistance, because jazz at one point was kind of like there was maybe not. There was it was the subculture.
Well, we really focused on rap. I took my background is history, so I really took let's look at the development of hip hop. Right. What were the influences then, especially early on, in the '80s and the golden age of hip hop and all that. Religion was a huge influence to a degree that most people wouldn't even understand. And
we'll break that down for
I
people
had a lot of
listening.
students say, I listened to rap for 10 years. I did not know the extent to which.
So how did religion play a role in the early days of rap music? For people that don't know.
Again, you have to look at it as a lived experience. And again, talking about religion here, it's not theology. This is more religious studies, right? We're not debating the rightness or the wrongness of a religious view. We're just talking about how it functions as a social thing. So religious expressions existed in the Bronx and in New York in the 1970s, particularly the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and all of that. And then you had Clarence 13X breaking off to start the Nation of Gods and Earths, the 5% Nation. These things were happening in the culture at the same time that rap was coming up. So when there were these big events where, Kool Herc is up there DJing and people are breakdancing and rap is being born, there were people in the audience there who hold 5% beliefs, who are down with the Nation of Islam, who use the language of the Nation of Islam, or the gods and earths, the dress codes, the way you stand when you're just kind of chilling, all of those things became part of the fabric of it just because they were there. It got soaked up the same way an accent gets picked up. It's just part of your day-to-day thing, so it becomes part of your expression. So, I mean, in the early days then, if you look at kind of the golden age, a lot of the big guys were really reflecting a lot of Nation of Islam, a lot of 5% ideology, just because it was what they lived with. It was what they were around as kids, and it was the beliefs that they held. So things like, saying peace when you leave, that came straight from the gods and earths. Saying what's up, G, a lot of people assume that's about gangsters. It's not. It was, saying what's up, God. The 5% philosophy, the Asiatic black man is the personification of God, and therefore all black men are gods. So, if you have that lends itself to a lot of, rhyming potential. Rakim, the God MC, fully tied up in 5% philosophy. He inspires a lot of people. They're picking up on language and slang and attitudes and approaches without maybe even knowing that that's where it's coming from. But it's the language of your peers and it's the language of your heroes. So you pick it up and you pass it on. And then you get all these things that come around that are hugely steeped in that. And, it's almost a subconscious thing that it's influential on the level it is.